I offer my most loving pranams at the divine lotus feet of our most beloved Bhagavan Shri Sathya Sai Baba. Sisters and brothers, Sai Ram to all of you, and welcome to the Christmas observance at the Flushing Sai Center. Before we proceed any further, how about one more round of applause for these wonderful SSC children. As we observe Christmas today, it is indeed Swami's blessing that we have in our midst a person who was blessed to lead the Christmas celebrations on one occasion in the divine presence in Prashanti Nilayam. It is an honor to welcome and introduce Dr. Alan Levy, who is a psychoanalyst and clinical social worker from Connecticut. He has been making a trip for Swami's darshan and also to learn from Swami's divine guidance over the last 25 years or more, ever since he came to know Swami in 1971. In fact, in 1989, he and his wife, Roseanne, who's also here today, were blessed by Swami to lead the Jyoti meditation for Western devotees who were visiting the ashram during that time. He's been very active in the Sai organization. He was instrumental in conducting counseling programs for the 9/11 victims in New York. And he also led the counseling program on behalf of the Sai organization for the tsunami victims in Sri Lanka in 2004. He's here to narrate his inspiring experiences in the divine physical presence of Swami. And as I mentioned, he comes here to our center with his wife, Roseanne, as well as his daughter, Sarah. So please join me in giving a very loving welcome to them.
It's wonderful to be here in the midst of all the divine forms of Swami that I see in you. It's wonderful to be here at the Divine Lotus feet and immersed in our beloved Bhagavan. Thank you all for inviting me to come speak. I pray that Swami speak through me. I pray that Swami love through me. I pray that Swami feel through me. I pray that Swami be through me, breathe through me, live through me, and through all of us as well. Well, we made it through the 21st of December. The Mayans didn't, though, but we did. It's a wonderful Satyuga, golden age of God. For the next 1,000 years. But it's not the next 1,000 human years. It's the next 1,000 years in God, which is probably more than 100,000 human years. Peace on earth. Swami said, don't doubt that my mission will be accomplished, for which I've come, which is to establish peace, love, unity, and Dharma on earth. So we're all part of that, and it's a wonderful thing to be a part of. We're not a part of this as a separate mind, body, personality, ego form. We're a part of this as the divinity within each of us blossoms forth, is known, and we are one. Through the years, many of you I've seen. Mark, hi. Andrea, hi. Many of you are my friends from the past, and we've all shared together Swami's grace and love and learned at his lotus feet. Back in 1970, I heard about Swami from my brother Lou. I had invited him up to college to learn how to meditate through transcendental meditation at the time, Mahesh Yogi was sending people forth to each college, campus, and I saw an opportunity to find out something more about meditation. I know my brother was involved in that previous to me at high school level, so I invited him up to college, and we both learned to meditate together. And it was no big deal to me. It was just another thing to do, like study science, meditate, study, pre-med or whatever it was, play soccer, meditate. It crept up on me, and after a while, I really wanted to know what this meditation was about. Anyway, over the summer, my brother went to California and stayed with Mahesh Yogi for a couple of months. And towards the end of that couple of months, he hurried back to New York and left him behind, Mahesh Yogi. Can you make it lower, a little lower on the volume? And met Hilda Charlton, who some of you may have known. And Hilda had spent from 1965 to 1966 at Sai Baba's in her 18th year in India. After searching far and wide, she met Nityananda there, and Nityananda passed on about 63, 64, so 65. Then she went to Swami's, and Swami said, "I know your teacher," and invited her to stay there at the ashram. And actually, she lived in his house in Brindavan with Lily, who was Shirdi Ma's, I think it was Shirdi Ma's sister. And at the time, Hilda just felt like she hit the jackpot and recognized the divinity within Swami, recognized Swami as God on earth, stayed there for a year, and then wanted to come back to New York to help hippies who were lost, you might say, and the young people in general. So she had meditation classes for free and introduced everybody to Sai Baba. She introduced my brother Lou, who then, when I came home one day in October from college, my second year, my brother showed me a picture of Hilda and said, "This is the Divine Mother," because she was enlightened. Swami had said, free, no more births, Hilda. And then he showed me a picture of Sai Baba and said, "This is God." And I went, "Lou, you've been meditating too much. You're totally bonkers. That's very nice, the Divine Mother and God and all this. Have a nice day." And then I went back to college. I came back for Thanksgiving in November, and my brother gave me a book, Baba, by Arnold Schumann. You don't see this around much, this book. I have a couple of copies of it. One of them signed by Arnold Schumann, because one of my friends, my wife's friend, was his friend. So we got a copy, but it's a very risque book. It was written by a reporter, and he uses all sorts of language. But he recognizes Swami as divinity, especially when he sat in meditation one day, and when he got up, opened the door, there were 3 days of newspapers sitting on his doorfront. But he's so freaked out, he didn't meditate after that anymore. But he was a very highly developed soul, you might say. Anyway, I read this book. I read the first 10 pages, closed the book, put it down, and went, "Oh my God. God is real, and this is God." And that was it. And ever since then, I kind of woke up to who Swami was, and Swami took us, my brother and I, closer, and then he took my wife and I close, and things evolved. In 1978, I was lucky to go there. And it's funny you should play this song today, "Love is My Form," because in an interview, Swami just sat me in front of him and sang that to me. And I was just totally blown away by the depth of his love and his grace and his infinite compassion. Because I'm going to say that even though my daughter is here, when I was in college, I was a drug addict. I mean, I learned meditation when I was really bad. I was a pretty bad person in college anyway, and Swami just picked me out of that mud and saved me and redeemed my life. Well, things carried on, and in 1980, when I went back to Swami, we celebrated Hanukkah together. That picture in the advertisement for this day was in Vrindavan, and it was Hanukkah time, and Michael Goldstein and I asked Swami if we could put the Jewish star on the symbol, because as a Westerner, Judaism was important to the Western world, and it was not known in India, because there were only 500 Jewish people in India, basically in Bangalore and Bombay. So, but in the rest of the world, there were 15 to 30 million, or whatever it was at the time. So Swami said, yes, we'll put the Jewish star on the symbol for the Western world and all the countries outside of India. I don't know if that included China or not. At the time, China, there was no size center in China, but in any event, we had a Hanukkah celebration, lit the candles, and I'll just sing you the prayer because it's just so beautiful, and it was such a beautiful moment. And it's nice to include all the religions in our awareness as beings of love and light. So this is what it means. Blessed art thou, O Lord our God, King of the universe, who sanctify us this day with light and love. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvosav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel chanucha. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehechayanu v'chiyamanu v'higyanu b'zman hazeh. Amen. And when I sang that for Swami on 1980 with 500 or so people and about 30 Jewish people there, he stood right here, and we were facing each other, and I just dissolved in him. It was just bliss. And he was very happy. So Swami, in an interview in Hanukkah at that time, at the party, said this. Think about this. This was the first real teaching that Swami gave me personally. That was earth-shattering, mind-bending, mind-boggling, and I had to put the pieces of this together over time. And Swami said this: there are no victims. And he said, again, there are no victims. You don't understand, only God can understand. Think of that. Now, that doesn't mean that we don't have deep, deep, deep compassion and love for those that are suffering. We don't think, what's the cause of this suffering? That's not our job. That's not our business. That's God's business. Our job is to alleviate, relieve the suffering of others with compassion and love, because we're one. So where we can, our job is to help others, to console them, to give them food, clothing, shelter, schooling, education, medical care, without any strings attached, if possible. That's our job. It's God's job to do that through us. That's the reality. So time went on, and interviews came and went, and in the early days, in the 70s and the 80s, Swami gave a lot of interviews, and if you were lucky to be there then, there was many, many times when Swami would call people in, and luckily for myself and my family, we were called in many times. And so time went on, and Hilda passed on, and Swami sent me to Hilda and said, take care of her. That's what Baba basically said to me, because I was living in Hilda's house in 78 when I went to Swami for the first time, and I brought Hilda and 24 other people there. In order to get there, that was the only way I could do it, really. I couldn't just leave Hilda. So Swami had said to me in 78, he sent Hilda home, or Hilda went home with the others, and he kept me there for about a month extra, and said to me, I bless you to take care of Hilda. So that was my job, and I stayed with her until she passed on, and in 88 went to Swami and lived there for a year with my wife Roseanne. But we weren't married yet, and we asked Swami to marry us. And Swami said he would, so we stayed and waited. And during that time, we did share meditations. You know, I asked Swami, there are people that are coming to me to ask to meditate. That had happened since 78, actually, because I was a TM teacher. I had gone to Mahesh Yogi and become one of his teachers as a part of my senior year in college, graduated with that off-campus study. And Hilda was very upset that I went. She didn't want me to go. But I wasn't in her house. I was just another student like everybody else at that time. So it was just like, oh, well, this is part of college. I'm going. When I got there at Mahesh Yogi's, I stayed there for 3 months. Everybody stayed for 3 months to become a teacher of TM. And then I liked meditating. So I stayed another 3 months. And then I stayed another 3 months. And after the 9th month, Mahesh Yogi said to me, why don't you stay here and teach my teachers how to teach meditation? So I did that. And then he said to me, well, I'm going to make you a monk. You can stay with me and I'll support you for the rest of your life. And you can stay here and don't worry about a thing. In Switzerland, it was really nice, on top of a mountain, or in Lake Lucerne. He had very posh quarters. And so I thought, wow, this is great. But then he said, go back to America, teach for 3 months, run one of the centers there, and then come back here, and that's what you'll do. You'll be a monk and stay here forever. So I said, okay, I'll do that. So even though I had been with Sai Baba, in my mind, I wasn't there physically yet. And this is, Mahesh Yogi, he was kind of impressive to me. I didn't know better. And went home, charged $150 for meditation, TM, takes 30 seconds to teach everybody how to meditate. So I came back, I felt really bad. I came back to Mahesh Yogi, I thought, wow, I don't have to charge anybody money for meditation anymore, I can just stay here. I felt real bad charging money, I really did. But I was a Westerner, I was brought up in a money-oriented society, I thought money, that's what you do. So went back to TM Center in Switzerland, stayed there, and in the 30 days I was supposed to be there. And then on the 30th day, Mahesh Yogi was going to initiate me into TM. So on the 29th night, I took Baba's picture out of the drawer because you weren't allowed to have it out. No pictures except for Mahesh Yogi. I looked at it. I said, Baba, you really got to help me. I think I'm lost here. You've really got to let me know. Do you want me to become a monk for Mahesh Yogi? At that time, I would call him Maharishi. I didn't call him Mahesh Yogi. for Maharishi, or what do you want me to do? Just really let me know. And I prayed and I prayed, I prayed. I meditated on that for about 30 minutes. And I said, Swami, you got to give me an answer, you got to give me an answer. And I heard at the end of that 30 minutes, I heard, go home. So that was 1974, 75. I went in 75 and I took the flight home. And I ended up in Mark's apartment living with him as a roommate. Thank you, Mark. And stayed with Hilda a bit and tried to get my life in order. And on the way home, I knew Mahesh Yogi was in the room waiting for me, and I just waved to the room. I didn't want to talk to him. But when I got to Swami's in 78, within 10 minutes of sitting there in the same moment, the same interview that he was singing, Love is my form, Truth is my breath, he said, I didn't say anything about that to Swami. He just said that. And so I knew he knew everything at that moment. And I knew that he was going to take care of me. And I knew I was in the right place. And it was the right time. So after that, in 78, people started to come up to me and say, do you know how to meditate? I said, well, I don't know Swami's. I know Soham. I can teach you Soham. I don't want to teach you TM. So people would come to my room and wherever I was and ask them to meditate. So after a while, they were like, if I ended up at the ashram, people would come up and say, can you teach me how to meditate? So I said, okay, fine. So then the ashram officials said, you can't have people in your room teaching how to meditate because you can't have people in the room, and there's like 10 people in the room, and So I said, well, what can we do? We're here. And they said, well, maybe you can have a shed. We'll ask Swami if you can have a shed. How about that? You have a shed and people will come to the shed. I said, okay. So then I asked Swami, because I didn't feel like, if the ashram officials asked Swami for me, I didn't feel like that was right. I wanted to have the personal connection to Swami, so I asked Swami, can we share meditation? Because Swami said nobody can teach meditation in one of those interviews. He said nobody can teach meditation. Share meditation. You can share, because it's concentration, and everything else after that, contemplation and meditation, happen naturally. So you can share how to concentrate. So I said, Swami, can we share how to... I said meditation. I said, he looked at me like, but he understood. And he said, yeah. So then they gave us the shed, and people would come to the shed every day at about, I think it was 10 o'clock. Andy Reimer, maybe you know him, he had the 11 o'clock shed with the Who Am I class for self-inquiry. After the people learned how to meditate at 10 o'clock, they would go to the 11 o'clock class. It only took like 2 hours to advance to the higher level. And so we shared all Swami's meditations that we knew, Dharana, staring at the candle flame, staring at a star like Ramana Maharshi would do. And then we'd also Soham, we'd share name and form, we'd share Jyoti meditation, share chanting the Gayatris, chanting Sai Gayatri. At that time, in 1988, Dr. Subbarao, Mr. Subbarao's father, his grandfather of Aryama and Aryama and the Sanjay and the Subbaraos, he cognized Gayatri Mantra, Sai Gayatri Mantra. He cognized Sai Gayatri Mantra. So at that time, Mr. Subbarao taught me the Sai Gayatri Mantra, and nobody said it in the ashram. It was just unknown, basically. Even though it was cognized in 1976, people didn't really say it. So we taught it to the Westerners, and the Westerners were going around saying Sai Gayatri, and all the Indians were like looking at them like, how do you know that? And I really had it down right. Om Saishvaraya Vidmahe Satyadevaya Dhimahi Tanna Sarva Prachodayat. Because Mr. Subbarao taught me. He was a very Vedic scholar. He was a Vedic scholar. So this is what we did. And then Swami would send people from interview to learn how to meditate, which was nice for us. And we were very happy. And then Andy and I, Andy Reimer, who was teaching Who Am I, and myself, who was teaching, sharing this meditations, we had an argument. Of course, I sat in on Andy's class one day, and it sounded so much like TM. I said, you sound so much like TM. This is not a TM place. This is Swami's. We don't need TM things here. And he took offense, of course, and I was offensive. It was not my business, but of course, being a big ego, I had to say something. And so Andy Reimer went to Jack Hislop. Jack Hislop comes to me and says, tell me what happened. I said, he's teaching TM things in self-inquiry class. Who am I? It sounds so much like TM. Now, Jack Hislop was like Maharishi's right-hand man. So he knew what I was talking about. But he also said to me, you're deluded. You're mistaken. This is Swami's teaching. Swami wants Who Am I? If he gives it in that style, that's just his style. I said, well, forgive me, I'm sorry. Okay, no problem. I apologized to Andy. Andy apologized to me. And then Swami says to Jack, is everything okay between the two classes? We didn't say anything to Swami, but Swami knew everything. And then Jack says to me, Swami asked. Shortly thereafter, the classes ended. It was 3 or 4 months. We also all went to Whitefield, but it was never restarted, actually. The reason it was because there cannot be discord in anything that Swami is doing through us. When we're doing things, there cannot be egos and discord or disagreements or disharmonies. Then Swami's work is ruined to some extent or more. Swami's work cannot be as wonderfully pure. And I learned that the hard way. But after a short time, when Swami sent us home, my wife and I, he didn't marry us in Prashanti after like 10 months or so. And we said, Swami, won't you marry us, please? He said, I'll bless, I'll bless, I'll bless, I'll bless. I said, Swami, please, you said you would marry us. Please marry us. I'll bless, I'll bless. Swami, please. I'll be there. Okay. All right. We went home, my wife and I. When we got home, we met her Italian parents. My wife's last name is Italiano. You can't get really more Italian than that. And she's from Sicily, her family, oh God. And her brother comes up to me when I get home and he says, so you're going to marry my sister, huh? Yeah. I have Baba's blessings. Well, you better treat her right. And she has an uncle named Uncle Vito, and he was a New York City police officer who now lived in Las Vegas. And he was the bodyguard for Frank Sinatra. And I met Uncle Vito. How you doing, Uncle Vito? How are you doing? I'm like, okay. He's a really sweet guy. He wanted to be a priest before he was a New York City cop, so we got to mellow out a bit. He was very sweet, very spiritual. So we get home, and Roseanne's parents say, thank God you're home. And I go, yeah, we're home, And my parents, my father, he was the head of the Fulton Fish Market. He was the president of the Fulton Fish Market back in the days when that existed. And he was the head of one of the companies, MP Levy Company. And all the scallops, we're vegetarians, right? All the scallops that are in the entire eastern seaboard and to the Midwest, because I guess some must have come from California somehow, but I think that even maybe before California was aware of them, they came from my grandfather. He discovered scallops. His fishboat men were eating these things one day on the ship, and he said, what are those you're eating? And they said, well, these are the stuff we throw away, but there's a mussel inside this thing that we catch with the rest of the fish, and you eat it, it's nice. He says, give me that. And he tastes it and he says, takes it to one of the famous restaurants on Park Avenue and says to the chef, can you cook these up if I provide them? Can you get a menu for something you make out of these things? And he said, yes. The chef said, yeah. So my grandfather provided him scallops, and there it went. All world, the whole America. So things went on like that. And my father said to me, and my mother said to me when we got home, we were praying that Sai Baba would send you home. You have to marry here in America. You can't get married there in India and then fake something in America. This is how my mother and father used to talk to me, and my mother still talks to me that way. Yeah, well, she curses a little on the way. Don't give me that BS. And, your Sai Baba, if he really was God, he'd send you home, because we were praying. That's what happened. That's exactly what happened. Sai Baba listened to our parents, and he wouldn't disobey them, and he answered their prayers, and that didn't matter over our prayer. Even though in the beginning Sai Baba said, I'm going to marry you, stay here. So Swami is everyone and answers to everyone. And my mother, she's as atheist as she can be. We have an ongoing bet. She says, God doesn't exist, and I don't know what your Sai Baba is about, and Hilda Charlton was a phony, and you just stayed there in our house for 12 years and wasted your time, and then you're going to India still, and Sai Baba's dead. What are you talking about? What's the matter with you? And I said, listen, we're not the grass, and when you pass on, you need to come back to me and tell me you're sorry. And at least say hello if you can't say that. My father passed on when I was at Swami's in 2010, and I was sitting there next to Swami. After a while, Swami had granted me the grace, begging for it forever, to sit on the veranda, even though I got kicked off 5 times. Went to the veranda. After 2 days, what are you doing here? You're not a Sai organization council person, blah, blah, blah. You're not a president of the region. You're not. I said, no, I'm not. No. But after I went to Sri Lanka and walked through the minefields and took a 12-hour bus ride to Patikula and then 3 hours further on to the outermost islands of Sri Lanka, that the sand was only 100 yards wide, and the tsunami had come over the entire town and washed everybody away. And when we went there, we walked through miles and miles of destroyed towns and villages, and cemeteries were uprooted, and tombs were all over the place, and bodies. And there was a civil war going on at the same time, remember? And we didn't care. The international medical team from Swami's organization did not care. We just walked wherever we could. We helped. We stayed there for 2 weeks. 2,000 refugees in refugee camps had nothing but white rice and pumpkin squash to eat. But when we came, we brought food. And after 2 weeks, instead of tears, where they were all crying when we came, there were smiles and laughter. The children were playing with soccer balls, and they were waving goodbye, thank you, as we left. That's Swami's grace. We're lucky to be able to be here and be used directly by him to help others. We're lucky. Gift that doesn't happen in a million years happens to us. We're really lucky. So after that, I just flew directly to Prashanti, and because I had the plans to rebuild the Sai Center in Sri Lanka that was destroyed on the coast, and teachers, SSE teachers and children perished. We never know when God's going to call us, and there are no victims. We never know his plan. So I just walked right onto the veranda. Michael Goldstein said, make sure you talk to Chakravarti. And when you get Chakravarti's permission to go on the veranda, you can go on the veranda. But I was there for only 3 days. I came in the late afternoon. I didn't see Chakravarti. I didn't know where to contact him. So I just went onto the veranda. And as I walked onto the veranda, I didn't know where to sit because I sat with the college professors at first on the left side, if you know the veranda as it used to be. And they said to me, "Oh, you don't belong here." So they said, "You go sit there." And I didn't know where that was. So it ended up, I sat with the doctors, but I sat like there was nobody in the front row, and I didn't know that that's a place for Michael Goldstein and the other guy and the other guy. I had no idea of anything, so I just sat right there. And then Swami comes out, sits right opposite me on the carpet, and there we're listening to music, and he's just looking at me and smiling and smiling and smiling. And I was just in heaven, that's all, in oneness of love. And I was just so happy. And 3 days later, they say, "Who are you? What is your name?" But that time I was gone, so the next time I came, I just sat on the veranda, and they say, "Who? You don't belong here, you get off." After a day or a darshan or two, whatever, and I got off, and then Swami comes, and I hear, "Go ask so-and-so." As I'm sitting there, and he's giving darshan to everybody, I'm sitting in the darshan crowd, I just get up, "Go ask so-and-so." He says, "Yes, you can sit here, don't worry." The next time I come, "What are you doing here? What's your name? What's your position? Go sit there in the crowd. Go sit there." So I go off, and Swami comes again. And this is the way it works with Swami. Inside here. Never anywhere outside there. And I had to learn the hard way, and I learned. Inside here. Swami speaks to us inside here. Swami will tell us what to do inside here. Swami is with us inside here, always, and all around us. I want to read at this point Swami's message to his students. This was, like 10 years ago, maybe more. I couldn't get the actual date, but I did see this letter once, and I did see Swami's signature on it. But it was recently circulated in the Northeast region. It was to his students. "My dear children," when Swami says students, he means all of us. Not just his University, Prashanti Nilayam, Vrindavan campus. He means all of us. We are all his students. We are all his devotees. We are all his. We belong to him. We have belonged to him for hundreds of thousands of years or more. We have belonged to him from prior to Rama's time. We have been his devotees since the beginnings of this earth and earth life. And for this purpose, which is about to transform this world, we have come. For the purpose of helping everybody grow into oneness with God, we have come. Don't doubt this relationship. My dear children, there is no longer time for slumber. You have been asleep and dreaming for thousands of lifetimes. If you do not awaken now, this chance may not come again for thousands more. Come with me. Separation is no longer the order of the day. I separated myself from myself so that I could love myself more. The experience is finished. I want all my selves to return and merge into me, the one self. I gave many of you the advantage of an unhappy childhood, including conflict or separation from your mother or father. In doing this, I removed from you the temptation to become attached to human parents or a specific family situation. That left you with only one option, that is to attach yourself to me. Why do you not avail yourself of this opportunity instead of continually seeking those relationships which can never satisfy you? Even if your childhood had been idyllic, as you would have liked, it is not even the love of this form that you long for. Your deepest, innermost urge is to return to yourself, to love yourself, to become the being awareness bliss which is all you will ever be. Let go of the past. Stop trying to get from each other what you still think you missed in childhood or marriage. You will never find anyone who is enough, not even me. Love yourself, know yourself, be yourself. Only you will be enough. Can you not love yourself because I love over and over again? Did I not virtually move heaven and earth to bring you to me? I have asked all my devotees to repeat the mantra, I am God, I am not different from God. Now I ask you to specifically follow that instruction. It will be more helpful than anything you can do. Now remember that I love you, and as I do, love yourself. With love and blessings, Baba. This letter pretty much says it all. Spirituality is not when we're in the Hindu temple, or when it's Sai Center, or when we're meditating, or when we're singing bhajans. Spirituality is not when we're looking at Swami's form, loving him. Real spirituality is 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, being aware of our thoughts, feelings, and actions, and whether they're in attunement and alignment. Whether we're thinking about God and the God within each and every being, and whether we're loving God and the God within each and every being all the time, including ourselves. Real spirituality is not the accomplishment of that. Real spirituality is the process of wanting to and trying to do that. When we've accomplished that, we're not spiritual anymore. We just are. And in that, we are free. Spirituality is a word that describes a condition of consciousness that is a process of trying. It's sadhana. As opposed to what? Materiality, spirituality, materiality, that duality. These dualities do not exist in reality. These dualities do not exist in reality. In reality, there's only one. There isn't any two, ever. So one day I was thinking, I was in Hilda's house, and she used to yell a lot. She'd yell at me a lot. Why'd you do that? Why did you do that, Al? That was so stupid. Why did you not give that money that you could have given here to that poor person, then you gave only a dime or a quarter? Why did you do that? Why are you so selfish sometimes and so giving other times? These are the things she used to yell at me about. Why don't you respect me and follow what I tell you to do? And why are you doing your own thing? Always, always, always. She for me, was Swami in my house, basically. Because it was her house and I was in her house, and, you know. So I was a kind of stubborn, really materialistically minded guy. I mean, I really was. And even my family will probably attest to the fact that I still am like that a lot. But the fact is, I was trying. And so I would go to Swami and I'd think, Swami, you're so loving, you're so wonderful, and Hilda at home is so yelling, and she's supposed to be enlightened, and why is she always yelling at me? And I'm thinking like this, like, you know, Swami comes by, and I say, Swami, interview, please interview. Yes. But he doesn't say, go. That was the difference. If you heard yes, that wasn't really an interview. That was one day I might give an interview. I hear you. It might be yes, I hear your request. Yes, 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 whatever. Indians don't say no, I understand. But for me, he didn't say go, but I didn't at that time realize that he didn't say go. But in any event, he said yes. This was after Hanukkah. So I go and follow him to the house in Brindavan. And as we're walking across this, maybe 150 feet or 200 feet of sand toward the house, the Sevadal lined up, like 8 Sevadals, and the head Sevadal guy is there right at the gate at Brindavan, was when the cottage was still there, not the new one, not Trey Brindavan. Swami stops at the Sevadal, and I was standing like right next to him. He's like here, and I'm here. And in the loudest voice I have ever heard, he's screaming in Telugu at them. And I'm like standing there like, well, I'm not going to move because, I'm here and Swami isn't yelling at me. And then Swami takes a right and goes right into the gates. And as I go in, the gates close. Boing! Be in front of me, not behind me. And I'm stuck outside, and Michael Goldstein's inside. And I'm like, okay. So Michael Goldstein comes out, and he says, Al, please go back and sit down. Swami did not tell you to have an interview. I said, please, he did. I'm leaving today. And then we had Hanukkah, and we did the prayers, and it was so nice. And I'm trying to manipulate something into an interview, like possibly that was just so naive and so dumb. And so, again, the Sevadal comes out, and he begs me, please go and sit down. Do not stay here at the gate. You heard Swami yelling. He was yelling at us because we didn't put the people who were ill in the proper place, so he couldn't take care of them. They were mixed into the regular darshan. That's why he was yelling. Please, please. He'll yell at me again that I didn't do the proper job of understanding and loving. Please sit down. That's a head Sevadal. This guy's like ancient, and I'm like 24. And so I sat down. I went home. And I learned that moment that Swami is amazingly everyone. And you can't judge because somebody's yelling or somebody's not yelling or what's a moment about. We never really know. So then in 88, I'm sitting there in front of Swami and Darshan, everybody's around, and we had a couple of interviews, but we were staying there like 9 months, and it was like the 7th month, and one of our friends, Barry Taubman, comes, who we lived with at in Hilda's house, so he's like a brother to me, and we lived 8 or 10 years, and Barry Taubman comes to visit Swami, and we've been there for about 7 months, and he sits down next to us, and I say, Barry, if Swami asks you for an interview, say you're 3. Roseanne, my wife, and I, and Barry, we were best friends, and he lived in my house. Actually, he lived so close to my house that one night I fell on him from the top bunk, and he was slipping on the bottom, and he had to go to the chiropractor for 3 months. So Swami comes by, and he turns to Barry, and he says, where are you from? And I knew this was where are you from is the first question. And Swami says, and Barry says, oh, from USA. And he says, how many? I go, wow. And he goes, 1. And so I go like this with my elbow, Barry. He goes, oh, Swami, 3. And Swami goes, 3? Okay, go. And I go, wow, the go. And we get up, and Barry gets up, walks forward, and I get up, and he goes, not you! Oh. And then he yells, and all 10,000 people present at Darshan that day could hear him. Very bad. Very bad. Oh. And then he says something to one of his, right-hand guys that's carrying the letters that day. I still see him to this day when I go. He says something in Telugu, and the guy's nodding like, I don't even know what he said. I wish I could ask him. He probably never would remember. It was 1989. But then I realized, wow, Swami's blessings are incredible. Because I felt like he was just, there was like a lightning bolt that was just striking me, and the selfishness was just being burned out, or a little bit of it anyway, and it was just burning. And I was just so sad and so blessed. After that, though, he calls us in finally in August and says, "How are you?" "I was fine, Swami." "I was fine." So, Swami is with every single one of us, all the time, inside us, all around us. He is everyone here. He is everyone here. And if you believe, "Well, not me," that's just ego in the form of inferiority, low self-esteem. Swami is you. The 5'1", 5.5", it was shrinking, 4'10", whatever, at the end. But that form, no. That form is Swami's form that he used, but that's not Swami only. He used to say, "This is just a pin drop of my magnificence just for you. Who I am is everyone, everywhere." One day he was with the students. This will blow your mind away completely. For those who don't want their minds blown away completely, please don't listen. He was with the students. Well, I'll tell you the story of the astronaut first, which I heard from several very well-known Psi organizational people. So Neil Armstrong walked on the moon, right? He lands on the moon. He gets back into his rocket ship to blast off. Nothing happens. They can't get off the moon. The thrusters aren't igniting. They don't know what to do. They call back to mission control, both in Florida and Cape Canaveral and Cape Kennedy, whatever it was known as that time, and then California and Texas and Houston, and nothing. Nobody can get it going. It's finished. And he's thinking, Neil Armstrong is thinking, "Well, I got here. That was great. We walked on the moon, but now we can't get off, so I guess this is it." The lunar module had landed and was stuck. And he doesn't know what to do, and then he started praying. God help us. God help us. Oh, God help us. What was that, about 1969? 70, 69, I think. Off in the distance on the moon is a person walking in an orange robe with an afro and a toolbox. He looks at it, can't believe his eyes, thought he was hallucinating. The person goes underneath the lunar module. He doesn't see him again. After a while, they say, "Well, I guess we're not going to burn up the person because, I don't know, we got to get out of here." And if they were really there, they're probably dead. And maybe it was just a figment of my imagination anyway. So therefore, he turns on the thrusters once again, trying, and it, boom, takes off. And of course, you know the rest of the story. Neil Armstrong then goes to Prashanti after he lands. It was about 1970, 71, something or in that neighborhood. I was before my day. And he's sitting there, and the students are there, and Swami's saying to the students, they go to the moon hundreds of thousands of miles away, and they can't go half an inch into their heart. Just to bring home some rocks. He's saying it in Telugu. So he turns when he says rocks in English, and turns to Neil Armstrong and says, "Is that right?" And he says, "Oh, yes, Swami, yes." And Swami laughs, and the students are laughing, and of course he brought Neil Armstrong in for an interview, and I gave him a great deal of love. That is a true story. I've heard many, many, many phantasmagorical stories of Swami and checked them out with the people or people that knew the people. And they said, this actually happened. One of them is this. We don't really know who Swami is. I mean, we sit with him, we love him, we sit and meditate upon him, and we really want to know, we want to appreciate, we want to really have a great oneness of relationship and depth of understanding and real surrender, Sharanagati. But we really don't know. And one day he was surrounded by the students in the interview room, and he said, "You don't really know who I am." And I said, "Oh, no, Swami, we know you're God. You're God. Yes." "Oh, and what does that mean, I'm God?" "Oh, well, you're the great, magnificent, omnipresent, omniscient, omnipotent one." "Oh, and what does that mean to you?" "That's just words." And they were all like, "Well, what else could we say?" And the kind of chagrined, because Swami's calling them on their reality of consciousness, actually. So he goes like this. And he holds this white orb glowing in his hand, like this. And he says, "What do you think this is?" And they go, "Oh, that's a glowing white orb." "Yes. But what do you think it is?" And they said, "Swami, we don't know." And he says, "This is the moon. And now I must put it back because I can only hold the forces off for so long." And he goes like this, and then back it is. So, for the one who created heaven and earth, without even a blink of the eye, we are his disciples. For the one that can change heaven into earth and earth into heaven, or dissolve them both entirely into the absolute, we are his devotees. But for the one that knows the truth of Swami in their heart, that one is Swami. When we really believe what Swami has told us, we are one, and he lives in our heart and the heart of all beings, and he is around us, surrounding us, on top, below, to all the sides, and within, all the time. For that one, there is freedom. In the oneness of his love, in that freedom, we can give that same oneness and love to all beings. Even if we don't believe or know that within ourselves, we can still give the oneness of his love and light to all beings. Through the years, Swami brought me up from being Jewish to being Christian, having me do Christmas. And then he said, he looked at the map. There was Bethlehem in the play scene, and he said, "What's that?" And his students, who we were with at the time, said, "Oh, Swami, that's Israel." He said, "No. What is that?" And they said, "Swami." He looked at me. Let's see if I was going to react. And I looked at him, and I remembered the day that Hilda said to me as we were passing the Hotel Neville in upstate Catskills, where all the Jewish people used to go for vacations. And he just looked at me and walked on. And it was very happy, and I got to sing the Shema for him during Christmas time with him right behind me, and it was just a beautiful moment of wonderful bliss. So he is waiting for all of us to embrace all religions. Jesus was a wonderful Jewish person. His mother was a great Jewish mother. So the fact is, he wants us to be everyone. Abraham, a Brahmin. That's where his name came from. It's true. He wasn't directly related to the Hindu. I mean, his father wasn't Hindu, but way back they were. They were the tribal races at the time, but they had really come from India. and kind of broken off. You think about this. We're all really one, even when it comes to religion, in reality, because the Muslims came from the Jews. And the Zoroastrians, I'm sure, and the Buddhists, they came from the Hindus, and it goes on like that. And if you went all back, further and further back, to the Vedas, when they first came to the rishis, there were no religions. There was just the Vedas. There was no Hinduism when the Vedas came to the rishis. There was just God. So you think about this. We are really, really only one. One humanity, one divinity, one love, one unity. And when somebody in the street that we pass by is suffering, it's our responsibility to help them. That's God's suffering. And Swami once said, we asked, why, Swami, why do people suffer? He says, how would you learn to help? Think about that. All souls, before they come to earth, decide what role they're going to play in this great cosmic play. There's nothing that's unplanned. I asked Swami, remember when first of all, a few things happened, but along the way, he broke his hip for the first time in like 1985. Did you know that remember that? Anybody? 1985, he broke his hip for the first time. The Iran-Iraq war that had been going on for 20 years ended the next day. And Swami never said it, but that's the fact. That's what happened. That was the first time he broke his hip. Other things happened, broke his hip, broke his arm. Other incidents throughout the world were taken care of that way. Other devotees as well. And I went to Swami and I said at the first opportunity, Swami, and he knew what I was going to say and he wouldn't let me talk about it in an interview with 25 other people present. He said, I was going to recount the thing, and he said, everything is my will. And I went, Swami, even when people are angry and do things that are murderous, and he said, everything. And then he said later, not a blade of grass blows in the wind without me willing it. And that was really hard to understand in the light of so many negative things happening like that. But that was the truth. And I had to accept it. And then I understood it after probably about 20 years. It took me 20 years to really get it. And this is how I understand it now, and I'll share it with you. God is omnipresent. That means he's everywhere. That means he's through every thought, every feeling, every atom, every molecule, every energy field, everything that we are and we experience. Okay. So if that being the case, who can it be other than God, than Swami, doing everything? Swami does everything. The illusion that we do something is just that, an illusion of the mind. It's a delusion in reality. We are everything. We do everything as God and nothing else. God is everything. We are God, doing everything. The mind just prevents us from seeing the reality. One day Swami went up to Hilda and said, no mind, no more births. And then said, a diamond is a very precious stone, but a diamond is the greatest treasure in the entire universe. And I used to say to Hilda, how do you think? Because I couldn't possibly understand how she functioned. She said, I don't have a mind. I just think from here. I do what I feel to do. From here, God does it. And I said, what's that, Hilda? How do you do that? And then one day, just a few years ago, Swami went, Bob Singh? You should know Bob Singh. Bob Singh is one of the bravest people I know. And there were There was a presidential conference. It was birthday, it might have been birthday 2000, actually. And all the presidents couldn't get into the mandir where Swami was for that birthday day. That particular moment was one of the birthdays. And they couldn't get in, and Swami's relatives couldn't get in. It was just one mass of people and pushing and shoving and pushing and shoving, and all the security guards with the police were blocking. So Bob came up to me and said, "We got to get these presidents in this conference." I said, "Okay, you take the back, I'll take the front, and we'll get them all in." So we prayed to Swami, and we went like a snake kind of through the people and held hands, and we got them all in. And when I went to sit down in the veranda, I wasn't on the veranda then, but just the mandir area, I sat at the pillar where Veda chants the Vedas, so that pillar. And Swami looked at me and went like this. And I was gone. Just totally gone. But I was aware I was gone. I was just aware. I was just one with Swami in that moment. And I didn't have a mind. There was no mind there at all. And I thought, wow. I don't even think I thought that. I just experienced that. And when I finally came out of that, I thought, wow, this is how Hilda functioned. But it was like, I really wasn't used to it, and I couldn't function. I just sat there like, my eyes were open and everything, and wasn't even meditating. It was wonderful. Look, I could talk about a million things that happened. It doesn't matter. I could talk about being close to Swami. There were thousands of people that were far closer to Swami and had far more access to Swami than I did. Maybe even millions. But the fact is, Swami is with us, waiting for us to wake up and do his work, waiting for us to be willing to believe what he says is true, help others, love others, and thereby be free. And even when we're free, we'll still want to come back here and help others. So many enlightened souls have become free over the eons of time and continuously come back to earth to help, especially when God comes back to earth to help. So Swami asks us to chant this affirmation to ourselves. And this is, I am God affirmation. He gave it to us in 1984 at birthday. So if you want, you can repeat it after me. I am God. I am not different from God. I am the indivisible, supreme, absolute. Sat Chit Ananda. Truth, consciousness, bliss. Grief and anxiety can never affect me. I am ever content. Fear cannot enter me. I am God. I am not different from God. So all day I do this prayer. All day. Whenever I can remember. Because it cleans the mind and takes us beyond it. Jai Sairam.
Thank you, Dr. Al, for that wonderful narration of your experiences. If you think about it, it's quite remarkable that here at the Hindu Center, which is predominantly a Hindu place of worship, we have a practicing Jew who just spoke to us on the day we observe Christmas. So please join me in expressing gratitude to Dr. Al Levy. And as was mentioned before, he will facilitate a meditation session.
Oh. Om. Take about half a minute to settle the body. Make a resolve in your mind not to move for the next 15 minutes. Let's keep our back straight, our head erect, as comfortably as possible. And when you feel comfortable and ready, follow the breath in as if you have a nose in the center of the chest. This has an ability to open the heart center even further. Most of you have it way open already. But it even makes it radiate even. So we follow it as if we have a nose in the center of our chest, and we think so breathing in as we follow the breath, and hum breathing out, which means I am that. So breathing in as we follow the breath mentally, hum breathing out. And when the mind wanders, it naturally will, because that's what the mind does. Then you realize you're not following the breath, come back to it, so breathing in, hum breathing out. Come back to it comfortably, easily, and effortlessly, without judgment or criticism, without any condemnation, just so breathing in, hum breathing out. When the mind wanders, and you notice it's wandered, gently, easily, and effortlessly come back to so breathing in, hum breathing out. Now in that same heart, imagine that there's a flame of light, a Jyoti flame of light, light of God, the light of love. And feel that love for Baba in your heart. Visualize the flame with Baba inside it, if you like. And let all thoughts and feelings dissolve into this flame of light, light of love. This light within your heart, this light of love, this light of God, let it flow to all the parts of your body, as if your body's hollow, or with the blood, this light of love flows. And visualize your body inside from the tips of your toes, right through the whole body, tips of the fingers, arms, legs, right through the whole body, filling with this light like a cup that is filled with water. Your body's being filled with the light of love from your own heart, from God within you. And wherever this light of love touches, it purifies. And ask Swami to help steady the mind and let this light of love flow through us and into our head and into our brain, into our mind. It's all God. Swami, help us, bless us, your grace. Realize our oneness with you. Feel his love flowing through you, through every cell, every thought, every feeling, every atom of your being. It's all God. And in your mind's eye, whoever comes to your mind's eye, friends, family, or strangers, see them as the same light of love. Let it reach out to all beings, this light of love. Visualize them in this peace, this love. Same light is within you, is within them. It's all God. Try not to move. Hold the body steady and firm. Yogis and yoginis on the Ganges doing God's work. Bring this light of love to the top of the head, from the forehead to the top of the head, like the sun rising from the dawn to noonday. And let it flow through the top of the head and all around you. Let it overflow and fill the streets, this room and the streets beyond. God bless everyone. Swami, through us, heal this world. And all the surrounding state of New York and New Jersey and Connecticut. Let them be filled with this light of love that's radiating from all of us, from you. Just visualize it. It's all God. And in Connecticut especially, God bless Newtown. God bless all the people of Newtown. May their hearts be lifted up by this light of love this moment, and their spirits be healed. Baba. Visualize it. And this whole nation, may it be healed. Everybody in it. Light of love. The whole world. Light of love. And all the sky around it. Light of love. Light of God. And all the universe around this world and the sky above it. Light of love. Light of God. The oneness within you. Everywhere. All love, all light, and beyond all, we are. So begin to come back now. Bring all this love and light into your heart center. Instruments of God's healing love and light on earth. We are instruments of God's healing love and light on earth. We are God experiencing life on earth. We are divine beings experiencing life on earth. Come back into the heart and bring all this light and love with you. Don't leave it out there. Coming down and breathing, being aware of the body. It's all God. Just as much here on earth as it is everywhere else. So bring this consciousness back in. Asatoma sahagamaya tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityoma Tangamaya Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.